All right, recording correct. If we can take a snapshot of the attendee list, just so that we have a roll call just to see who's actually here and who is not. There are a few different people that did message beforehand, and we will distribute the people that let us know ahead of time that they wouldn't be able to be here. But like I told you in the last meeting, the way that I want to start off every one of these is to actually remind everybody about what our mission is. Reminder, you guys are Voi. You are making blockchain work for everyone, and you are delivering on the promise of Web3. We, the foundation, are here as the catalyst. We're here to help, and we're actually to empower you to actually make the best decisions possible. And just a reminder, like, you have ownership here. This is your chain. So I hope you own it, and I hope you really embody it. But this is your chain. So we'll go ahead and get started. The second governance meeting. First one was great. Really actually stoked about that. And then I actually don't have the agenda in front of me. I'm going to keep talking. If Benny, you could actually send me the link for that so I can.
Yeah, thank you. Just the chat.
All right, cool. Thank you. The main thing I do actually want to, before we start, is really kind of hit on the importance of participation. We totally understand that not everybody is a loudmouth, but we do want you actually participating. Shaper from Shaper Entropy, or I forget exactly his name, and did actually call us out for not voting on the actual voting proposals. So if you're in the governance committee, please vote. I think when Shanti gets back, Shanti's not here right now because she is on vacation, but when she gets back, I believe we're going to be using a new tool for voting. Just because it's going to be easier to find. And right now you have to kind of scroll through Discord to find out what kind of votes. So I'm giving the benefit of the doubt that many of the people here maybe just missed the voting opportunity and didn't really see that. So going forward, we'll have a tool that's easier to point out. So please vote. IRL, you commented that you didn't have a strong opinion of one way or the other, so you just didn't vote. I think in the future we'll probably just have a abstain option. So if you don't really care either way, you can actually vote to show like I care, but I don't care about this.
Right? Yeah, it's not that I don't care. I just think I'm not tangled up on the verbiage topic, particularly.
Right on. Thank you, Iro.
So yes, second, it was on the poll channel, wasn't it, where you had to vote?
So actually, the first ones, this is another why there's actually a pass, is that Shanti accidentally put it in the wrong channel. So big pass to everybody.
Okay.
Because we're figuring things out ourselves.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, there was just the one vote, right? Or was there more?
There's several.
Oh, okay. Well,
yeah, I think there
I
were
definitely voted all those.
Were there like 3 or something like that?
Yeah,
I don't know exactly.
Where is it?
Oh, Keely, welcome. Welcome back from Burning Man. You survived. Congrats.
Yeah, I'm dry.
Good job. All right. So this is kind of this one to kind of call out. There was a, I'm going to actually bring this up because, it was something that happened. There was a kerfuffle in the actual governance meeting from very, very early that a lot of people were thinking that one person on the actual governance committee should be removed. That person actually hasn't been removed yet. So I think that the opportunity is now to make a call out to remove that individual and go through that process. I think it's going to be a pretty much straightforward, normal process because I think it's all kind of gone away. But I think we should go through that process just to make sure that we know that we can actually go through that process. Does everybody agree with that?
Sure.
Cool. Yep. Wonderful. All right. So I'm going to actually take a pause here and just see if there's anybody here that would like to request anybody to be removed from the governance committee.
I don't know who's been removed already. I believe a couple people stepped down, if I'm not mistaken. I did hear that number decreased. So maybe we don't really know, other than the meet and greet page in Discord, really what the status of every member is currently.
Gotcha. So obviously the member I'm speaking of specifically is Angel. Angel has made it clear that he's not stepping down. He's not here right now, I don't believe. But also, I think that there are other ones that I don't believe anybody's actually stepped down. So as of right now, if there's a meet and greet, they are still in it. But also Angel.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, for I guess Chris, just to address the Angel situation. Yeah, I mean, I know we kind of already had the discussion, but I think bringing it formally to the committee to officially kick him off the committee is what I say we should do. So
Okay. So Andrew moves to remove Angel from the committee. And I believe what we'll do is we will do a vote after this, if to actually remove the person or not.
Can we,
that.
just so it's on the record, sorry to interrupt you, and I need to figure out how, oh, there's the hand thing. There, I should have done that.
Oop.
Can we hear on what grounds we want to remove him for?
Of course. Andrew, since you brought it, what
boy,
grounds?
I probably should pull up the document that I don't have in front of me right now. Well, it's really a combination of things. So there's been a lot of talk that Angel possibly was involved in some rug pulls or some, at the very least, unsavory behavior that probably doesn't fit with the ethics of what Voi stands for. I know he's been a passionate member, and of course, we welcome the passion from everyone. And one thing I do want to say is I think people can change. So I hope that Angel takes this kind of as a learning experience and puts his best foot moving forward. But for me, it was really the evidence that people brought to me about some of the rug pulls that he was possibly involved with. I'm not going to name who brought it, but they were able to kind of look through the wallets and show some stuff, some tokens that were made, rugged, sent to a KuCoin wallet, or I believe it was a KuCoin wallet off the top of my head, that was connected to Angel. There was also some talk around his participation, if you want to call that, in the Rand Gallery NFT wash trading thing, which I know some people also found that a concern. So, yeah. And if anyone else has any other things they wanted to bring up, definitely feel free to jump in.
And has he denied this, or he doesn't deny it but just thinks it's not a big deal?
He, it's known he didn't do it secretly. The other thing, or for like the watch trading about the other things, I'm not really sure. But D13. Actually, Bill, I'm gonna let you cut in line if you'd like.
So right, with regards to,
okay,
can you hear me?
Yeah, go for it in D13.
Right. So Angel's character isn't really in line with what I believe Voi's about. There's two incidences, one which is directly related to Voi that I want to point out. One is, okay, so following the wash trading thing where he thought he would be eligible for claiming the top reward by Rand Gallery by wash trading with a friend and someone else's collection. That's literally what he did. The NFTs he was buying were at 10 to 15 times the actual floor of the collection, so it was entirely artificial and 100% wash trading. So that's one thing, but I would let that slide, except for he started calling Rand Gallery thieves and that they scammed them and they stole $5,000 of his, which is absolutely false. And not only that, but he did that replying to XRP people. He went cross-chain to call Rand Gallery thieves and scammers, which is the worst possible fucking look. But beyond that, following his rants with that, he posted about Voi and putting it antithetical to Algorand. He promoted Voi as in, fuck everyone, we're going to Voi, as if we are the enemy, and we are where you want to go if you're pissed off with Algorand. And fuck that shit twice.
Thank you, D13. Bill?
Yeah. And I think, as everybody knows, I don't have a vote on the matter, but I tried to work as the liaison from the founders and Angel when things got pretty out of hand, to be blunt. But I put it in the Discord, and I think many agree with the sentiment that whatever the situation was between Angel and Rand and his ability to win or be eligible for the prize, is really not the issue. And I spent a lot of time reviewing his positions, even communicating with him about it. The issue is the mentality in the outcome and the perpetual, almost trolling of members of the community. You can say, I think I got scammed here, but it was just to be someone that is a outward facing member of the Voi in the form of an ambassador, which we did take care of. We revoked that. And to be an outward facing member that has control of the testnet environment, we selected these parties to be individuals that we thought would be good caretakers and fiduciaries and forward facing members of the community. And the last thing we need at this stage, in my humble opinion, is a divisive character in the middle of it all. I like to give people chances. I like to have an open line of thought. I have no interest in controlling what everybody says on this committee, but there was nobody I spoke to other than Angel that thought that it was appropriate to post by the hour that Rand Gallery is a collection of scammers. Algorand is junk, all the sorts of things that it was him saying it. And we politely asked him to cool it, and he just refused. And he also refuses to, remove himself from his body. So that's why we have a need for the emotion and the like.
Water, do you have anything to add?
Most of it has already been said, but also from the perspective of a committee member, I haven't noticed any contributions that he's made or any efforts that he's made since then to try to repair the relationship. So I agree with everything that's been said, and I think we should remove it.
Okay, thank you. We will have a vote after this, and please actually vote.
Just a minor housekeeping. Can we get a second of the motion?
I second the motion.
Thank you, D13.
Thank you, D13.
Okay.
All right, moving on. That was fun. That was the first thing that we did as a committee. It's not a fun thing that we had to do, but we did it. So great job, everybody. That's teamwork. One of the things actually I wanted to bring up here, and this is not a voting thing, but I want you to start thinking about this because this is something that I've been thinking a lot about, is concern to chain fees. This is how much it will cost to use Voi. The reason why I want to bring this up is because Algorand is the tech that we started with and that we're building on top of. And I personally believe that the Algorand fees are too low for sustainability to the actual overall ecosystem. One of the reasons why Algorand does the way they are is because they don't currently have a plan of what they'll do with those fees. Voi, on the other hand, we have a plan for what we're going to do with those fees. We believe those fees are to fund public goods on the actual network. Public goods are things like block explorers, a good wallet, public APIs, all of these things that everybody needs and are actually kind of difficult to monetize. So if we keep it at 0.001 Voi, that doesn't actually give enough fees to fund these things. I would like to think about increasing it by 10x, potentially even 100x. So 0.01 to 0.1 even. And the reason for this is because the Voi, there's 10 billion Vois in the world, so it's still not a lot of Voi that we used on gas, and it would go a lot further to funding these things. Would love any thoughts or comments. Of course, no decision needs to be made right now, but would love your thoughts on this.
So, Chris, go for it, D13.
Let's do hands so that we can.
Yeah, indeed. Since I cut in anyway, are you considering this to be enforced on a protocol level? And also, are you talking about minimum balance requirements as well for like asset opt-ins and so on?
Yes to both. So not asset opt-ins because we don't have access to that. This is just transaction fees, and yes, at the protocol level. The asset opt-ins, as you know, are there to prevent the size of the blockchain from growing out of control. That can be the same as whatever they currently are on the protocol. I'm talking purely of the actual fees being paid to interact with the blockchain. Let's go. Andrew.
All right, sorry. I know how to work the computer, I swear. So I agree with you, Chris. I think that increasing the fees, definitely, I'm all for it. I would love to see, and I don't know if it's even possible technically, but like some sort of dynamic fee, whether that's, you could say you could peg it to a penny, each transaction's a penny, or if we do X amount of TPS, as the larger TPS scales, maybe the transaction fees come down. So if there's not a lot of network usage, the fees are a little bit higher, bringing in more revenue. And then when the fees scale up, everyone kind of wins. Again, I think I've talked with someone a long time ago, and I'm not a developer. And I think they said, people who build applications, that could become very tricky. Maybe there's a technical side to it that I don't understand. But I think it makes sense on paper to me. So,
I mean, there's two different types of fees. There's the protocol fees, like just interacting with the blockchain, and then there's the fees to interact with the humbles on top of it. You can, of course, control how much you charge fees as far as development goes, but I'm specifically talking about interacting at the protocol level. I'll go 101.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I think for the stated purposes, it makes sense to increase to provide support for the initiatives there. It's just a sliding scale or a slippery slope, right, of making it be prohibitive, I guess, for the fees if people want to do large number of transactions or whatever on the blockchain. So it's, maybe an analysis to kind of see where the sweet spot is, and of course could always be adjusted as we go.
Agreed. This, of course, we're not going to say, all right, after this meeting, it is now 0.1. This is very much like a gather the information from you guys, and then we'll probably create some type of subcommittee that people that care and want to actually put some thoughts in, and we'll put some extra effort in that. Bit D13, sir.
So are you considering this for testnet or mainnet?
Mainnet. Testnet, it doesn't matter because there's no value in the actual testnet token. So keep everything the way it is. This is a mainnet decision.
Right. Okay, so my first comment would have been how much testnet Voi people are going to be able to get, but since it doesn't apply to that, I wanted to comment about dynamic fees. It can actually be tricky to trust what the node is telling you from a technical perspective when you get suggested parameters. It can often over-report how many fees are required. Also, for anything but the simplest transactions, like if you do an application call that's going to do 2 inner transactions, let's say, you need to pay 3 minimum fees for the 3 transactions. And so for many such use cases, coders just assume that the transaction fee is going to be 1,000 microalgo, and then multiply it by the number of transactions that they need to make. So if we do change this, something to keep in mind is that a lot of code might have to change in order to support Voi as well, which I think is generally a nice to have, not to make people do that. And then, that was it, actually.
Okay. Well, Andrew, one of the things that you should know is that Reach automatically figures out what the minimum balance is. So that's not hard coded in a Humble right now. Wilder.
Is it something that's going to be able to be adjusted after mainnet launch, or is this set in stone for the life of the chain?
I believe, and D13, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, this is something that can be changed via an upgrade to the actual network itself. So the amount of fees can be changed after launch. That's true, D13? Yeah. So yes, it just requires an upgrade, and we can change it as we go. Keely?
Do we think that if the first user base is coming from the Algorand ecosystem, if we're charging higher fees, is that going to be a deterrent for people wanting to use Voi?
Maybe. We don't really know.
And if it's something that can be changed easily in the future, maybe it's sort of like a freemium type of situation where, hey, come in now, it's what you are used to, and then, but make it very transparent. Next year, we're going to be raising it so that we can, have a more sustainable ecosystem.
Yeah, maybe. I don't but the thing is, I don't believe, and this goes back to, I hope that my fudders and the trolls out there listen to me say this, is I don't see our success by pulling people from Algorand. I see our success from actually pulling mainstream users to actually use the blockchain and grow from increasing the size of the pie. So I agree that I think there might be an issue where if our main plan was to take people from Algorand, that could be an issue. But at the end of the day, if that was our plan, we're not going to be successful anyway. So we need to figure out how to actually grow from other chains and from other just mainstream users and grow the amount of people that actually care about blockchain. And if you look at it in that way, even if we increased the fees by 10x or even 100x, we're still well within anything else out there.
Yeah.
D40.
I think a lot of people who have been in the algo ecosystem this whole time realize that like what's gone on isn't really sustainable. So I think a higher fee, even though it's like 100x higher, it's still really manageable.
And the thing is, like,
pretty important.
I think the two is like, I think it could be a selling point, because if we say 100% of that fee goes into public goods that increase 100%. And make things better, then you're like, oh, well, it's not going into Chris's pockets. It's going into a pot that is going to actually make the actual whole ecosystem better.
Yeah,
I think that could be a selling
sustainability
point.
is a no-brainer, especially coming from algo, where it's pretty clearly not been sustainably put together. That's huge.
Exactly. IRL.
Hi. So my just quick thought from a non-technical user is I like the idea of it being 0.01 because that's the opt-in. So you don't have like a different amount to transact than an opt-in. But I also really along the lines of like what Andrew and kind of D40 was saying, is like I can acknowledge Algorand's not charging enough, but I like the idea of maybe having a roadmap per se, or like a plan to decrease fees has adoption increases. So as activity increases, you would decrease fees because you wouldn't need as much, ideally. But it being, after the fact, since D13 gave the thumbs up that would not be too hard to implement. Those are just my quick thoughts. Is I like the not different prices for different stuff angle, and it is more currently than Algorand's charging.
Wonderful. Thank you, Ira. And Shelly.
Hey, what will the governance look like for the usage of the fees, the accumulated fees?
Proposal based. It'll work similar to how everything else works. It's just that the proposals will come into different buckets. Is this a public good or is this something else? So that's how it'll work.
Okay.
Dragonfly, I think you beat it.
Yeah, just thinking out loud, what if we had a public kind of roadmap on when we will specifically raise fees at what level of transaction volume, or excuse me, the opposite, when we would decrease fees in the future, so that everyone is kind of working towards the goal of decreasing fees, getting to the volume that we would want to get to.
Yeah, I think one of the things though is that some of you might have heard me talk about this, is that I think that one of the first roadmap development things is to actually to change how fees work. This is still very early thoughts and very early thinking about it, but I personally would like to switch to block fees rather than transaction fees. Whether there is a flat block fee where that's everybody that fits in, every transaction that fits into that block shares that overall fee. That means that no matter how many transactions go into it, the amount that goes into the overall pot is the same. So I think that's the way that we should look at this, is to be, yes, we could think about it as far as roadmap and into the future, but things move so fast in blockchain that roadmaps usually become outdated within like a couple of months of thinking and building and things like that. So yes, I agree that, figuring it out and make sure we put out the thoughts out there is good, but spending too much time on that ends up being a waste of efficiency, because things just change so fast. All right, moving on to the next thing. One of the things that's not on the agenda, but I'm just so proud of it, and you guys should be as well. There are 74 unique proposers for Voi so far. In the last 24 hours, 74 people that are actually running nodes to protect the network. And we've only had the testnet running for a week, and it's not even incentivized yet. This is huge. This is thanks to, Oz is here, but thanks to D13 to making through the both of you guys making the process of running a node so easy. And it's like giving you kind of like an idea of what's happening in the community, is that there's this kind of like camaraderie competition already going on of like, oh, I produced a block type of mentality that I think is extremely healthy for this community, and we should be very proud of that. So great job to all of you to make this happen. Yeah, so Andrew says there's going to be 75 soon, and I hope if you guys are not all running blocks or running nodes, you should soon. Why not? Come join the fun. It's really easy to do. IRL, I know you are. Great job. Coop, you too. All right. So next part on here, it says do a quick in-person introduction. We're not going to do that. I think just using the meet and greet thing is fine. So if you haven't actually filled out the meet and greet area, please do that. And that'd be great. And, I keep saying like 75, 76, 77 people saying that they're going to run it. My goal is by the end of this weekend for us to hit 100. So get the word out. Tell people to run nodes, because by Sunday, I want to see 100 people running nodes. Anyway. So go fill out the meet and greet and make sure that people knows. Once we have actually, we haven't let the world know who is on the committee yet, mainly because I know that right now there's this kind of is in flux. The meet and greet it's in Discord. It's a channel, Keely. And yeah, so threw me off. But anyway, put the information in there, and we're not going to do actually the introductions. And once we actually solidify who's part of the committee, then we'll make some announcements via Cody. Now, Bill, I want to pass it over to you to talk about testnet incentives and just the value of the testnet coin and everything of that sort.
Sure. Following on what Chris said, I've said on Twitter, my goal is to get everybody on this committee to have a node of some kind. So if you're on this committee, you're not sure how to do it, I've gone through the process a couple different ways, and I'm happy to walk anybody through it. I had never run a node before. I haven't coded for a long time, so if I can do it, everyone here can do it. Want to be able to make sure everybody gets online. So let's talk about what are we doing here? What is the exact role? What is the concept? So I think everybody on here has some familiarity with specifically the Algorand structure, where there's a foundation, there's an ink, there's tokens. The foundation has access to tokens. That's all in mainnet, and those tokens are freely traded directly through decentralized exchanges and centralized exchanges. There's quite a few of them. With the testnet, these tokens, loud and proud, are worth nothing. They have no value whatsoever. This is purely an environment for the network to get tested, for us to sort out governance, how we're going to do things when we deploy the foundation on a mainnet level. We want to try things out. We want to make mistakes. We want to see how it goes. We want to see people have, an enjoyable time exchanging items on the network. We want to see artists create NFTs. We want to see meme coins that get created and distributed and played around that likewise have no value. We want to, most importantly, this process, which is what we've been working on, which is deploying a node network that functions properly. And so we want to get the node network up. We want to get people to understand how to do it. We have been very open about the fact that one of the earmarks within the mainnet tokens that will go out, they will be going to consensus participation nodes. So this is an educational process for the community to be able to participate that down the road. So what you are actually doing as a testnet committee, anybody can make a proposal, and that proposal will be to earmark and distribute a certain amount of testnet tokens to them to go ahead and be able to participate during this phase, and to be able to build things on the network, whether it be in the form of an NFT series, an indexer, critical infrastructure. And there's going to be a discussion about what's an appropriate amount of tokens, what's not an appropriate amount of tokens. That all flows to an aspect that you're not going to be involved in. At some point, there will be a scan of the testnet holdings, and there will be some airdrop authorized by the foundation of mainnet tokens with a correlation that you're never going to know that correlation table. That is not going to be on your plate. But when you grant a testnet distribution of 1 million testnet tokens versus 10 million testnet tokens, you are in some way saying that this is of more value to the testnet environment. This is of more value to the act of testing out the nodes and getting people on the network to use it and figure out how we're going to work together, so to speak. So there will never be a statement by anyone on our side of the ledger that says, oh, you should give a lot of testnet tokens to this because these people should be wealthy with Voi mainnet tokens. We're not going to have those kinds of discussions. We want you to be thoughtful about, is this something that I think is really necessary and that will incentivize somebody to sit down and build things that are going to be useful for all of us during the testnet phase and ultimately convert to a mainnet tool or product of some kind. So it's unfortunate that the landscape is so bizarre and wonky given US regulation and some other regulations, but we found this to be the best way that we could include the community in our process of getting our network deployed and used, and have a real voice and input from third parties that say, this is the things that the community would actually want. And also give developers and creators the opportunity to say, okay, I can get in early and I can build things with some hope and dream and desire that my efforts will eventually result in an airdrop of some kind that the independent foundation away from Inc. will decide how that correlation works. So if there's any questions about that ever, please feel free to contact me. Chris and Benny and I are all very available, but we can't be more clear that at no point in time will we tell you what the testnet tokens are worth, because they're worth nothing. We will never tell you what the mainnet tokens are worth because we have no interest in being prosecuted by the SEC. But we can tell you is that we appreciate the time you're putting in because we think it's worth it. We think it's worth your time to be part of the community that's building a chain that we think is modulated properly for people to actually get out of it what they're putting into it.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Bill. Mariano.
Yeah, thanks for that, Bill. It's just because I had a conversation with Chris on the public channels just about how hard it is for especially developers that have never done anything on Algorand or anything like that to gauge sort of like whether or not the payout for the time spent building will be worth it and all that. I understand that you guys are kind of like stuck in a position where you can't make a comment on it. But one thing I think might be a good way to like kind of like have an idea as to like what does worthless tokens mean is to create like a general pool of how much is the community actually allowed to disperse of the testnet worthless tokens. And from it, kind of have like an idea of a table, just so that we have, of course, a rough estimate as to like what scale of projects would look at what scale of useless bounties, to put it another way.
Yeah, I'll take a quick stab at that, and I certainly welcome Chris and Benny's thoughts or anybody else's thoughts as well. So one of the things that we're doing, because we've been spending almost a year putting this together, and different skill sets, different backgrounds, is that some of the early stage proposals making requests for token counts, we've tried to modulate them in our view of the sweat that goes into the creation. So, Chris is working on proposals that are very tech driven, and he knows from developing things like Reach and Humble and other platforms, like this is a big lift, this is a small lift from a developer standpoint. I've spent a lot of time in the NFT space, and I think I have a based on discussions with Chris of like, okay, this is what it would take to put together a well-orchestrated project or a launch pad, things like that. And so try to compare and contrast that to the number that Chris throws out there. The committee can turn down the number that's submitted, but we're just trying to give some indication of what we think is an appropriate size and scope of effort that goes into the project. And then it'll start to create a bit of a stack, and we'll be able to see like the spectrum that exists as to what you get out for what you put in the form of the tokens.
add one thing to that. 100% of the distributions are going through you. They have to go through proposals. They have to go through. I say 100%. Right. I took 1,000 tokens to actually seed the thing. Those 1,000 are going to come out of the actual proposal. So forgive me on that 1,000, small, a little teeny bit. But because I want to get that moving. But that will be in the actual proposal. So anyway, but all of the all of the emoji faces. Anyway,
Retroactively taking tokens, Chris, this early.
it was 1,000. It was 1,000. All right. But it will go back and it will go actually into wow. Look at all right. And enough out of you guys. I feel you.
Can we vote for Chris?
He'll be paying it back. Don't worry.
Anyway, so yes,
you can't vote him off the committee. He's not on it.
Exactly, suckers. But anyway, the idea is that you will determine how many of the tokens go out. The large majority of all the tokens. So you will be able to dictate what these worthless tokens, the amount actually go out to the people. Does that make sense? So if you say this project is worth 5 billion tokens, and then the rest of the committee agrees to it, I guess you are really saying that's worth half of all of the potential tokens that could be given out.
Gotcha. Then I think it's more up to us inside the committee to kind of generate that type of internal guideline so that we can kind of gauge range.
Exactly.
I think it's also important to note, Chris, what was the total testnet token count that's earmarked for total distribution? Is it 2.5 billion?
It was 3.6 billion. Total, like from all of the bounties, everything was 3.6 billion, but that's not a real number because we might not pay them all out. There might be more things out, but with the actual bounties that were created, it was around 3.6 billion.
So, as a starting point, we know what the basket is, and if a proposal comes in for 2.5 billion tokens, it better be really critical. It's 2/3 of the entire token set you're working with.
Exactly.
Perfect. That's my question.
All right. One thing to actually talk about the proposal process. One of the things that have come up, and I think I'm glad that has come up, is that we need an expedited proposal process. Because right now, the normal proposal process takes a minimum of 4 weeks. 2 weeks for a comment, and find a champion, and then 2 more weeks for that champion to do DD, and vote happens. The testnet block proposal incentive process needs to be decided in the next 2 weeks. So we need a new process for an expedited proposal process. This will happen again in the future. Something really crazy will happen, and we'll need to know what we do those tokens. So we'll need a expedited process. So this week, we need pay attention to the Discord, because we're going to decide what that expedited process looks like, and it could be a off meeting vote that happens, but we need to do it because this decision needs to be made before the October 2, so that we know how many tokens that will be given out. So that's something that is really important. Any questions about that? Water, go for it.
For the expedited meeting, when it is being put together, I think having it being as public as possible is important. I know there were a lot of quick expedited decisions the foundation made, speaking of Elgrand, that confused a lot of people, and I think having transparency in part of the expedited process is important.
Well, you're in luck. We are default transparent, so everything is already going to be transparent. So with this, and I agree completely. Transparency is very important. Okay. I think that's kind of talking about the transparency a little bit more too. I know that's not on the agenda, but Benny's freely modifying the agenda as we go, so I can too. We'll be better in this in the future, I promise. The actual communication that is public. Shaper from the community has actually voiced his opinion, their opinion, if about how and where we actually communicate. Now, this is something that's like you can read it. He's actually put it into the Discord about how or where we actually communicate, so it's easier for people to read. I recommend you guys taking a look at that just to get your thoughts and your opinions. I don't really have any thoughts on opinions about this, how we should communicate. His whole thing is that we're talking more than governance inside of the governance channel. But my worry about restricting what people can say in that channel means that it will create sub channels that aren't public. And if that happens, who knows what's happening in those conversations. So I don't know what the solution is, but I do want to bring it up because they brought it up so nicely. IRL?
I just wanted to share some of my thoughts. I did read that comment, and while I can appreciate the concern, not everyone communicates in the same way. And I think dealing with gifts or whatever might bug you in a channel might just be the cost of being inclusive. I would lean heavily towards moderating as little as humanly possible in the spirit of open, transparent communication.
I agree. People do communicate differently. People sometimes communicate through gifts. That's fine. But yeah, I think moderating and restricting communication just creates side conversations that ends up being wrong. So, E13.
If we can try and make use of the threads when talking about something new or something specific, I think that's going to help group the conversations quite a lot. I know it's not how we usually use Discord. I'm speaking about myself here as well. But yeah, if you're trying to follow a channel and there's 3 different conversations going on with replies, it's really hard to follow through. And this probably has to be done by the initiator of the conversation. Otherwise, it's split between the main channel and the thread. But I find that a fairly good way to group sub convos in channels.
Anybody can actually create a thread on a conversation. So if like I ask a question, you can actually create a thread and answer it. And I agree. I've started doing this. I don't know if you've been seeing this, but it makes things so much easier to organize.
Fair enough. Yeah, the first replier can also do that. But if half the conversation is already like on the main channel, then you're gonna miss half the context if you start a thread downstream.
Yeah, I agree. So I'm going to tell everybody if you're replying to something and it's a big topic, just reply with thread. It's a easy button in there. It groups everything together rather than just hit reply, because reply keeps everything in the single thread, but reply as thread, it kind of drops it into its own conversation. So let's just all try to be better at it. Nobody's going to scold you if you do anything wrong. I mean, we might be scold you, but it's not going to be that big of a deal. Let's just try to keep things organized. All right. So I think I've talked enough. Cody, you have 3 things in here. Do you want to bring that up? Council specific email addresses.
There's the email addresses in the shared drive and the group email, which I chatted about the other day.
We'll move on to Benny while you look that up. Benny, you're on.
All right. So this probably won't take 30 minutes, but we'll see how it goes. So really, this is just section of the meeting just to run through some of the outstanding things. Obviously, you guys have hopefully all seen the bounty board and grants process, which obviously we're going through right now. So first up is really just however long it takes, just right now, kind of open floor. If people do have any feedback, I can just jot it down and we can start amending if there's any things that people don't like or they do like or they want to add to or remove or change. So yeah, open floor really for anyone that has anything to say about that.
And as you guys are hunting for that raise your hand thing, just a reminder of what the bounties are. The bounties are our message to the world, what we want them to build. So yet we took a first swing, but the thing is, like, you guys know better of what needs to exist out there. Of course, people can submit anything that's not on that bounty list, but if we say this thing is missing, we need to make sure that it's on the bounty board so that the world knows what will actually be approved more likely than not. Wilder?
Thanks. Can that 70% for the first stage be lowered to 50%?
It's up to you guys basically. So we can have a vote on that, on what you guys think might be a better threshold. So we can certainly put in a vote. Maybe there's just a range from 50 to 17 based on how you guys vote. We can run with that essentially.
Awesome. I think a lower threshold makes sense first stage, and the champion work afterwards would make sense for a higher consensus. Maybe someone else has a different opinion.
Yeah, I'd say it could make sense initially to lower it, and obviously as the throughput becomes higher, don't want to overwhelm you guys, and it might be a good filter to raise it. But again, it's completely fluid, so we can 100% have a vote on that, and you guys can decide on what's going to be most appropriate. Cool, go for it, Dave.
I was just going to say, I don't know if I would have different thresholds, only because keeping it consistent. I feel like as long as the understanding is that you're voting it through to get it to a vote. Essentially, it's like an initial approval process almost. Just keeping it consistent might be better.
That makes sense to me. Yeah, Ira, I'll go for it.
So I'll admit it, like I'm having a hard time keeping up, and I will get the hang of this as everybody solidifies. But so I originally wasn't sure where to fill out the evals, but I knew they needed to be done. So I've got like a whole paper list of my scores for these different proposals that have been put out. And I scored them 1 to 10, which I think would make it easier to hit a 70% threshold. I think having each score the 1 to 5 gives it, that 20% basis. It's going to be harder. So maybe lowering the threshold might make sense if we're going to do 1 to 5 versus like a 1 to 10 scoring. Just my thoughts.
That makes sense. Yeah, I think we will add in or amend those forms to be to 10, just so there's more granularity to it.
Okay.
I mean,
yeah.
Sorry, Arrow.
I was just going to say, I think the 70% would be okay then, given that if it's a 1 to 10. But I think having 20% per score on a 1 to 5 scale makes that 70% hard. It would have to be closer to 60, I think, if we were to keep that. Sorry, go ahead, Chris.
So what I would say is that the numbers out here, we have to start somewhere. We know that there is going to be a thing. If during the first proposal we find that nobody hit 70%, we know to change that number. Which not sound like, oh, sorry everybody. It's like, okay, our process, we're figuring this out. So we start the starting point, and then once we actually go through the process, it's like, oh, the D13 proposal didn't actually hit the 70%, but it's an awesome project. Maybe our process is wrong. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, rather than actually keep our process in stone and say, okay, well, you guys have to fit to this, we can adjust our process as we go.
Yeah, go for it, Lobo.
So my question would be, okay, if we lower it to 50%, what would we be losing? So the question is, the proposals that score like 50 to 70%. So it seems like a majority of the committee thinks, okay, maybe we should take a closer look. So what happens after that is that a champion is selected and takes a closer look. So maybe if we have 50% at first to get a champion on, he takes a closer look and we can all evaluate it again after we have all the information. We then can have like this 70% threshold.
Makes sense to me.
Yeah, that does make sense. I think that there is a subsequent vote afterwards as well, with a threshold not defined just yet. So yeah, if that's what you guys want to roll with, we can have a vote on what's appropriate again. But that makes sense to me. Coop, go.
This is probably, I probably should know this, but so we're expected, because I thought that we would be voting for this like one at a time, but I'm expected to go through all the proposals and vote on whether it should pass forward. Like now, everything that's up, I should have already voted on.
So not everything. So essentially, when someone submits a proposal, there's about, I think it's 7 days when it's just community open to comment. So when we send out an email, the agenda, try to highlight ones which are ready for evaluation. So the only one you guys actually need to evaluate right now is just the one that actually impacts you guys. But all the other ones out there are still open for community comments, because there's been a lot of them, some of our proposals included, where we've had to go back and edit them based on feedback from the community.
Got it. Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, cool.
All
All
right,
right.
you go for it,
Back to you,
mate.
Cody.
Was there, sorry, Cody, it's IRL. Is there an ask on where you want us to put that, or just what we've already provided you have?
Brilliant. Cheers, Cody. Anyone got anything else to say on any of that? Otherwise, we'll get back to the bounties. I'll assume not. So yeah, before we get on to the proposals and stuff, it's worth us talking about the bounties. We kind of touched upon it earlier. Obviously, completely up to you guys on what the token allocation amounts are. We've put out a number of existing bounties on what we think is appropriate. And actually, actually, no, I don't think anyone else has put out any bounties yet. But you guys are able to put out bounties for what you think is needed within the ecosystem. So really right now, it'd just be great just to pick you guys' brains and just see if you are happy with the existing bounties right now, whether that's what they're actually for, whether it's the token amount, and things like that, basically. So again, just a bit of an open floor, just to get some feedback from you guys on if you're happy with the existing ones. And if you haven't seen them, they're in the Discord forum, which we think you guys do all have access to, but it's been a bit weird the last week. Yeah, go for it, Andrew.
Yeah, I mean, I think the proposals, a lot of them make sense. I'm personally interested in the AMM one, obviously with my humble bias, but I think some of the core infrastructure stuff that you guys have listed sounds good. I'll try and take a deeper dive later today and really try to think of what other things might be missing, what gaps could be filled. But I think it's a good start for the core infrastructure and things that are going to be needed on a day-to-day basis.
Before Lobo, you answer, one of the things I just want to kind of say as well is that these bounties are very important. And I'm going to kind of put it on you guys. If nobody actually submits proposals for these, we need these. So if you know anybody that can actually build these things, go knock on doors. Be like, yo, DFly, I know that you said that's you would do this, but when will this happen? Or yo, Humble, I know that you said you'll do this, but when are you going to actually do this? Because we need these things. Ludo did a great job of integrating a wallet, but we need more than one wallet. We need and so go. Let's round them up. Round them up, boys. Let's go get them. All right.
Yeah, exactly that. You go for it, Lobo.
So maybe I missed it, but I just looked at NFT Marketplace again, and is the actual bounty for a minting site and a drop site somewhere that I missed? Or
So Ost here, he hasn't done his proposal yet. Ost.
That's true.
okay, so there will be mint sites, so like creators can easily mint NFTs, which okay, and like a way to drop them, like a public shuffle or so.
Yes, Ost, do you want to talk about it? Here.
Yeah. I'm not sure if you've seen HighForge, but we built HighForge for Algorand 9 months ago, and Arc 72 came out, I don't know, 6 months ago, and we've already built Arc 72 support into HighForge, and so it's just a matter of turning it on, essentially. So, yeah, I have a couple other things on my plate that I'm doing, so probably 2 weeks, 3 weeks away.
So I think we need to all go find Ost and knock on his door and say,
Yeah,
"Hey,
exactly.
win proposal, sir. Win proposal."
Then maybe just a general question about the minting, or about the drop site. Will it be using the VRF or not? Because I don't know if HighForge was the one who was utilizing this or not. So I just wanted to ask.
HighForge does not use VRF.
Yeah, does not. We don't need to dig into this. All of that will be in the proposal. So, I'll go on.
Lobo, were you just wondering if we should add to that bounty something about the minting requirements in it? It does look like there's has the ARCs listed or whatever, but guess was that initially what you were wondering, if this proposal should include the minting piece of this?
I would say for all of the bounties right now, I definitely implore you guys to review them and add your comments and your feedback. It is open to the community too, but I think, obviously being the council, if you can lead the charge on actually reviewing them and thinking about them, because there might be things that you think are critical to include, which we might have missed. So it's completely open for you guys to take a look at them and just decide what is and what isn't appropriate. We've already amended some off the back of actually comments from D13 as well. So any of them, to be honest, and they're all on the actual Discord forum, or you can find them actually on the GitHub. I put a little link here to the board, and you can actually sort of find the individual files as well on the GitHub.
Maybe to give Algo 101 an answer. So yeah, it was like the wording was like support for asset, and so I thought, was it like the drop was part of it or not? And so I wanted to get a clarification about it.
Cool.
Okay, brilliant. So yeah, if everyone's happy with the existing bounties as far as they've seen so far, we can move on to the next one. I'll just give you a few seconds. If anyone's got anything, go ahead. Cool. So yeah, definitely do check them out because they do need reviewing. And again, the token allocation amounts could be subject to change based on your guys' comments and feedback as well as the community. But I think what would be really interesting to chat about now would be, what do you guys think is needed but is missing from this bounty board? Because like we've said earlier, this is what we think is necessary, but it'd be great to find out from you guys what bounties you want to see on there. So if anyone has any ideas, now's a good time. And obviously you can add to the bounty board whenever you want, and do a pull request and do a whole proposal for it. So you can just do that anytime, but yeah, go for it, Examian.
Well, I know Chris was kind of against it, or at least he seemed kind of against it, but I wouldn't mind seeing some kind of faucet for like a small, very small number of tokens to be able to use toward development. Some way to get development tokens. That's all I'm thinking.
Well, you can certainly put a proposal or put a bounty together for it.
And I'll happily give my opinion about it.
I know you will.
Yeah, IRL, go for it.
I was reading the proposal, I think Foodie submitted about the learn to earn, which I thought was interesting. It was missing a few key pieces in order to be able to like even attempt to complete an evaluation. But it made me laugh when I saw that the smart poker, I think, was asking for 10 test net Voi. And I thought that, you know, I don't know, but I am thinking about that. And I just wanted to share my thoughts that I thought the learn to earn was kind of a cool way to get people. But I do have some notes on that. And like I said, I think we're missing some key pieces to be able to actually complete an evaluation for that proposal to move forward. But I did think it was really interesting on the topic of having Voi to be able to do some basic testing with. It would be a really cool way to vet that. In my opinion.
I agree. I think it was an interesting proposal, but maybe there is room for more bounties to be picked up, which could be related to the educational side and things like that.
Yeah. I'm going to voice my opinion about why I'm worried about a automated faucet is that because this is a game where the number of tokens that you receive matter, even though they have no value. It is a game, and people game faucets like nobody's business. And it's a way to really break the actual the system. It's happened several times. There's somebody in this committee that has gamed a faucet before. So it's very possible, very easy. And that is why I am against it. I think that a faucet should exist once the incentivized testnet is over, 100%, because I don't want to actually drop Voi myself manually because it's a huge pain. But I think a good proposal would be a faucet that has Sybil protection in it, so that it can't be gamed. But if you can figure that out, I'd be impressed.
Well, you're more than welcome to comment against that proposal if you haven't already. But I do like the idea of there being less technical, educational-based bounties out there. So if anyone does think of any, of course, you guys can submit a bounty request, essentially.
Agreed. It's just like the faucet one would have to, a big portion of it would be like D13. How annoying would it be to actually game?
The issue with captchas is that you can bypass one fairly trivially, but it does cost a little bit of money. If you change something like 3 or 4, it will be very annoying for users, and also it will be really annoying and costly for someone to game them as well. So it is, we can make it harder than the Algorand one, for example, but yeah, it will always be possible.
Right on. What's up, Ira?
I was just wondering, I know Cody was working on some non-technical bounties, and if there's an ETA or if there's like a subcommittee chat or something somewhere that I should be watching for that kind of stuff.
They'll be on GitHub, and I'll have them done by the end of this week for sure. I'm just getting them ready for GitHub right now, so they'll be all on GitHub.
I know you've been working on it, so it's kind of trivial for me to try to think of what else we need until I see it. You know what I mean?
I'm also just made a proposal for it. That will be out by the next governance meeting. Is the only thing. So I also got to figure out how much I can allocate per bounty to you guys as well too. So the proposal I just submitted to GitHub. So I gotta wait and figure out how much I distribute to you guys. It's the number one thing, but I'll have the bounties on the GitHub soon for everyone to kind of look at. I just don't know how much testnet I'm going to give you until you guys approve me as well too. So.
And you said that proposal was submitted today?
It was submitted this week. Okay. Yeah. So once that gets done, then I will have the non-technical bounties up and running. I just don't want to really post them yet until I know how much you guys are going to give me. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't want to overpromise or under deliver. Like, well, sir, this is what I have. You know. So just wait a little bit for that. And I just want to also add another thing about the faucet and stuff like that. I agree 100% with Chris. and D13's thoughts, it could be gamed way too easy, in my opinion. If it was something like for like a coin-based learn to earn, because I know that brought a lot of algo people on during the bull run alone. So if it was something like the learn to earn or something like that, like on Coinbase where they have to go through like a verification or some KYC or something like that, and they already know they're only getting one drop per person. I would agree with something like that, but just an open faucet, I just feel like it could be gamed.
Awesome, thank you. Coop.
Is a like a borrow lend thing? Is that a bounty that we have out there? Is that not a priority necessarily, or?
Lending is on the list.
Oh, okay, it's okay.
Leveraging lending, yeah.
Yeah, just like a folks, like a money market. Okay, cool. And then so the non-technical bounties, that would all I kind of agree. Like if you wanted to like get a few Voi and you had to go through some process, that might be an interesting way to faucet. And the non-technical bounties, so that would be like maybe me with a proposal about helping educate people about what Voi is and stuff like that. Yeah, I'd be down for doing that.
Yeah, I also wanted to say like a content creator pool where maybe you could have like you'll get this amount of testnet tokens for making an article, this amount for making a thread, this amount for making a video. And then when the content creator makes the content, then the committee can review, is that thread actually good? Is it valuable? Or is it just like, written by GPT and then you just slapped like the word Voi in there? So that could be something that might incentivize people to organically make content if they felt like if it was quality, they could get a reward for it.
That is 100% the proposal that Cody just put out. So we agree.
Yeah, if I could also add real fast, what I'm trying to look for is also, I might change the reward depending on like let's say a video, for instance, like compared to someone just talking on a camera about what Voi is, compared to someone making like graphics, like a whole visual whiteboard thing out by hand that's completely crafted. Like that might require more testnet Voi than like someone just talking on a camera. So like I said, we'll be talking about it and then kind of like really determining like what's the value of this of this piece of educational content that was created. So and then you guys get to look over it too before I naturally, anything gets done and we all kind of decide this together. Like this is going to be the staple of our educational piece because that's important. Because like we really need stuff like that. We need something like people pass by like what is this Voi thing? Like, dude, watch this video. This is going to tell you everything, or read this article. Like you said, we really want to find that quality content. Those people that are actually hitting all the key notes that we're really looking for. I also made an outline for everyone to kind of follow as well. Like these key points I want you to hit. Like like when I have like a what is Voi videos, which are going to be like the first one we kind of want made. Like because we need a basis of like what is this blockchain and what's our mission, and what differentiates us from Algorand, for instance, and so forth. So
thank you. Yeah, thank you, Cody. Dave.
Not to beat a dead horse. I just wanted to clarify that I'm not really looking for a like a faucet as a way to acquire tokens, but more like a way to organically bring in development. Because in order to actually develop on the chain, I mean, you can develop on Algorand's testnet, I guess, if you want to, but in order to test on Voi specifically, you'd need tokens to do so.
Sounds good. Loud and clear, everybody.
So that doesn't have to be a faucet, but just trying to put that out there that it's a problem to solve.
I'd be completely fine with a proposal submitted for that, where you create a mechanism for kind of a nimble way for the committee to release tokens to, bona fide developers. So they can send out 10 at a time or 100 at a time, something like that, just so you can get testing.
And just so like also a little bit extra information. I know that there's a proposal coming for a Discord bot that'll allow you to rain Voi on active Discord users. So that will kind of work as a faucet as well. D13.
So for developers specifically, we can probably keep that ad hoc. And also in that case, we can do something like show me your code. Show me it running on Algorand testnet or some actual code that you've done and that you're not trying to just farm. But even just having it a manual process is going to deter a lot of farmers.
Agreed. And this is what I've done already. Like D13, you're like, I want to build. I said, here you go. And I think it's just a manual process. Like it's going to be a pain eventually, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
Brilliant. No, I think these are all great ideas, and 100%. If there's something you want to see built, but obviously you don't have the time to do it, that's where the bounties come into play. And obviously there's a little bit of a process involved doing it on GitHub, so don't worry too much about that. You could just submit on the forum itself what your idea is, and we will start discussing it before you actually want to start fleshing it out fully. So the idea is just to fail fast, essentially. Just if you got an idea, throw it out there, start getting feedback from other people on the committee and the community, really. So unless anyone's got anything else to add on that, I think we can probably move on to the council member incentives. So just give you a few seconds to speak up if anyone wants to say anything. Cool. So really, let's just have a chat about the council member incentives. I know a few of you have voted. I think there's now 8 votes, which I think is obviously not all of you, but I appreciate it's the first one and still getting used to the process. But really this time right now is just to discuss it. People might have concerns about it, they might have ideas, etc. And it's really just an open platform for people to voice these concerns or whatever they might be. And then people afterwards might end up adjusting their votes, which would then subsequently go into having to pass that threshold. So yeah, I'll just hand it over to you guys. If anyone wants to speak up, then floor's all yours. Yeah, go for it, Ira.
I am just wondering, is there a champion for that proposal yet? Or we're still collecting votes?
So that would happen afterwards.
Okay. I thought it was good overall, though. Like, I submitted my eval, it scored high. I think the note that I included was that I feel like this incentive will set the bar for transparency, and that I think it's really important that information, once decided, is available early and often. Has to set the bar for what we want to do. But other than that, that was kind of my main note, I think, on that proposal.
Thank you, Ariel. Lobo?
Maybe a general point about the problem description and the solution. So you say in the problem description, like, this is anti-ethical to the ethos of decentralization. If like early, what do you say, like early investors and so get a hold of a vast majority of the network's value. But if we look at the committee objectively, who chose us? The Voi Foundation. So it's kind of like we are, again, like chosen ones. So I think to actually have a solution, we should also have a way for community members to become committee members.
I agree completely. And then this is, I think this is different than the way that I actually have talked about this, and I think we just haven't codified it, is that any community member can apply to be a governor, and then we vote if they get accepted or not. The reason why that doesn't exist in the testnet is because this is the proving ground, and adding that extra step, I worry, would make things more complicated, and we already have too many governors. So the way that I kind of looked at it was like, okay, we could build the step in, but I don't want any more right now. But during the actual real mainnet governance, I think it's a completely different story, where it should be anybody can actually apply and then be voted in or not. Does that make sense, or Lobo?
Would that be through like a proposal process? Like, I propose I want to be on the committee, then somebody from the committee champions it, and then we vote.
We could. We just haven't actually.
Yeah,
I mean, we haven't actually codified exactly how it would work or not, just because we have too many committee members as it is.
Right.
So until people start getting voted off the island or stepping down, we have enough.
Just to give an answer to your question, Chris. So the main idea was like, if you look at Shaper, for example, he gives very good comments and stuff, and he always gives like very good comments on like, let it be governance stuff on Argument or X governance stuff on Argument. So it was like, okay, he's not a committee member. Would there actually be a way? And so I thought, okay, at the moment there seems to be none, and maybe it's a problem.
Yeah, no, definitely going forward. Once again, definitely a way in the mainnet committee for sure. Testnet committee, I think that we like in my head, I feel like 11 is like the max, not 20 something, whatever it currently is. So if we for some reason had less than 11, then for the Testament committee, we should probably get more people on. But we just have so many right now. Cool.
Yeah, I mean, on that topic, you have to start somewhere, and so here we are, and that makes a lot of sense to me. I was just going to kind of reinforce something that I really appreciate about this proposal, and I think it's great that it incentivizes actual participation. So it's like, okay, you can show up every 2 weeks and you get a certain amount, but if you're actually diving in and reviewing proposals and you're going above and beyond, there is a way for that to be rewarded. I find that to be it just has everybody's incentives aligned. So I appreciated that about it.
Is everybody comfortable with the amount? I think that's I think it's a sticky situation because like our incentives are kind of like, okay, are we saying we should get paid more? I say I don't get nothing. But you,
yeah, go for it.
It is. That's hard to know, right? Obviously, we don't know if we're being paid enough because we don't know what it's going to end up, what the ratio is going to be. So
because they have no value.
They have zero value, right? But we all know that someday they might at some sort of fraction. So it is hard to kind of understand, and it goes back to I think I forget the name. It starts with an M. But
Mariano.
Mariano. It was what Mariano brought up earlier, is having a clear idea of what pool what percentage of the pool is going to because this isn't not work, just scrolling, just trying to figure out Discord is work and like where you're supposed to be. So, if we're looking into all of these proposals, doing these deep dives and reporting back to these things, you do want to make sure there's good work being done and it's encouraging good people to stay engaged. So
I agree. It's like a sticky, difficult situation where the way in my mind, when I've thought a lot about this, and the way that I've thought about this was we can't do that. We can't do like this is what it is because that's against regulation, against all the things we would be in trouble. So what we fall back on is putting people on this governance committee that actually give a shit about this thing working, that aren't doing this because of incentive. They aren't doing this because of XYZ. They're doing this because they want to see this in the world. And if at the end of the day, they want to see this in the world and this becomes into the world, that to them should be enough success to actually to do this. So that's, Lobo pointed out, it's like, who picked it? I picked you guys because of that, because I've heard you guys enough talk about, boy, I love blockchain. I want to see blockchain be done in the world the right way. You're picked because of that. And if, these testament incentives that you receive that have no value are, cherry on top.
I would just add, I think Voi is showing that incentives work, with the node running. I think that the incentive loop is a super important thing.
Yeah. Lobo? Oh wait, no, that's Algo 101.
Yeah, so the token quantity at the top is 126 million. Is that because there would be like 1 million for multiple different champions, or I guess is that supposed to correlate in some way? That's the sum that we would expect.
the way that would end up working out is that these proposals, for especially for the foundation proposals, is give us 160 million, and we will distribute it appropriately until it's gone, and then we'll do another proposal. Or if it's not gone, we will return that back to the treasury.
Copy. So that's the full amount, and then based on the criteria, we'll get divvied out, maybe used all, maybe not.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I guess, yeah, just trying to gauge, it's like 3.5% of the total test net rewards, right? So I'm just trying to like frame it in some sort of percentage way on, is this council worth 3.5% of the total pie, right? So
cool. TD, you have a question?
Yeah. Would it make sense to develop some sort of simple vesting schedule for the committee compensation? Might send the right message out to the broader community about our motivations, intentions, why we're doing this, and commitment.
I would say that any type of vesting or anything of actually mainnet tokens is not, it's not prerogative of this. This is the thing that Bill kind of talked about beforehand. Like, don't worry yourself about mainnet tokens at all. That's a completely different story. And as far as actually the testnet considerations go, it's actually good to have these tokens out into the testnet economy to actually make things flow. So any type of vesting means that those tokens don't actually get out there, and it's almost is like a vesting thing because you will receive them as you put the work into the world. One of the things that's that we did talk about in the Discord already is the idea that we create two types of or a new VSA that is counted similarly to a Voi, but can't be used in staking on nodes. And the reason for this is because the node runners were concerned that a 100 million bounty that's, you know, that D13 would get for doing a, or whatever it actually ends up being, you could then stake 100% on nodes and then take all the block rewards, and that would be bad. So that's one of the things that we have actually also been talking about, is creating a new asset that is like the, I don't know what we would call it, but would actually just be two completely different assets. Wow, both came. Wilder, we'll start with you.
With having the separate VSA, I could see when the AMM goes live that everybody's going to want to trade into that token. So I can see it from a volume perspective being good. I think earlier in the conversation, the idea about a faucet, the way that we get actual Voi token into someone's wallet, especially considering a higher fee, is critical. And I'll take a better look at the token war, because that seems like one way tokens are getting out into the environment. Is there any proposal or any number for like a ratio for a proposal to get a certain percentage of the underlying token to do testing or any other things that they're actually doing on chain as like a mix?
Everything is proposal based. So the idea would be that this is actually another thing I talked about, is that, yeah, maybe they do need to get 10% of their bounty as a Voi, and then 90% as this other asset. It would just be part of the proposal and part of the decision. But yeah, I agree completely that it's important that they do have some Voi to be able to, like, for example, maybe I don't know, you just need Voi to be able to actually to power things. But I mean, a transaction is 0.001. You don't need that much Voi to make things work.
For now. Or you're talking about testnet, I guess. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, testnet. Keatley.
So for not Voi token, is the idea that is not tradable? I see
Completely tradable. Completely tradable. Completely open. It will flow. It's just that it can't be used to stake on or actually stake the network.
And it might have a value or might not, in the same way that Voi may or may not have a value.
Exactly.
But there will be something tied to it, I would imagine, some value tied to Voi at least, right? Like
it would be like a stable token to Voi. It would be tied 1-to-1.
It's equivalent in every way to the native Voi testnet token, but you can't stake it.
Got it. And will it be additive to the overall supply of Voi?
Yes, it would be. But like I said, so if we gave out 5 billion Voi and 5 billion not Voi, then that would be 10 billion given out.
Okay, so whatever the overall Voi supply is, the idea is take some chunk
Circulated.
of that for not Voi. Got
So
it.
that's the other way to think about it, is like if we don't circulate all 10 billion Voi, the overall percentage of the pie could be a lot less. Like Coop, you said, like, the 3.6 billion is like the amount of bounties we have earmarked. We might come up with more bounties or not pay them all out. So it's circulated Voi, testnet Voi is the thing that's you need to actually look at as far as the percentage that people have.
But they won't then, the value won't be pegged 1-to-1 because there will be a higher demand for one than the other at any point if there's more or less supply, right? So
I think that's there would be demand more for the actual native Voi because you can then stake that on and then earn. Yes, I agree.
So then if I get a bunch of not Voi and I go swap for Voi,
and then you could then stake that Voi on a node to definitely.
just want to run that scenario to make sure that we don't have a crash in the system, for doing that, right?
This is why we're talking about this with you all rather than saying this is what it actually is.
That's how we get an FTT issue and right, and a Luna issue.
Yeah. D13.
A couple of things. First, if we need to make sure that only 10 billion Voi plus not Voi ever get issued, it would be fairly trivial to create a smart contract that you can send Voi to and get not Voi back from. That would basically be a hard assurance that there can only be 10 billion of both. The second is it couldn't actually trade 1-to-1 because there would be more demand for Voi and less Voi to be traded than not Voi. As a couple of people get traded, so the market will actually decide there. And the final and most important question is the mainnet airdrop, whatever ratio that might be, going to be based off of a snapshot at some point? Or, yes. Okay, so you are actually incentivized to hold on to your not Voi and not trade it at any rate in order to, okay, that kind of makes sense. Cool.
Yeah. It will be a snapshot. This Lobo?
Just about the PVOI or what we want to call it. So if there was a stable swap on testnet, so D13 just said, so the market will decide the price. The problem is if we have a stable swap, which is very efficient to peg assets, then we could run into problems because the market could way more efficiently swap those. So the question is, maybe we shouldn't have one?
I mean, the issue is that I think if we don't have one, it really screws up the incentivized staking.
Also, I meant maybe we shouldn't try to get a stable swap on testnet. That was more my idea, not like the token. But of course, you will say
network.
Yeah, okay.
People can do whatever they want.
Okay.
Yeah, but it would be great to collect all this feedback actually, because it could be like D13 suggests in the chat that it is just a frozen asset and it's just for the purposes of that snapshot at the end. But obviously, I'm sure some people will want to be able to stake something.
I like that that would be liquid, mainly because it would incentivize people to use the AMMs and the whatever, because whatever.
Yeah, it could be vested over the duration of the testnet or something. It'd be great. Just people throw their comments down and we can digest it. D13.
So, okay, we can use the MMs with different tokens, but the entire idea of not Voi is to not be able to swap it for Voi and then stake it and increase your rewards, right?
I mean, you could, if you, I mean, the reason why I think keeping it liquid, it would allow the market to determine what they believe the actual value of is compared to whatever. And by keeping it open where people can actually then trade it, it's like, okay, well, I would be willing to trade 2 not Voi for 1 Voi, so I could actually then stake that Voi for the block rewards.
Right. Okay. Just as a side note, I already have a system with freeze that's smart contract operated, that you can still move your tokens as a user just to another user. It can't be used inside an atomic transaction, so an atomic group. So you can't place it in a smart contract or anything else that would require an application call. But if I want to transfer some to you, just one-to-one, then I already have open sourced the smart contract that can do that.
Cool. Thank you, D13. All right. Have we talked enough about the council member? Oh, Cody.
Concern about doing that. And it'd be similar kind of like how there's like, voting stock and then common stock, and how like all the voting stock usually gets hoarded by like, the hedge funds and, the bigger players. And that would be kind of like my worry with the Voi and the not Voi is that, like the exchanges or the VCs would end up hoarding a lot of the staking one. And, pretty much, like the common stock would be like the only thing that
the big issue at the very end, at the snapshot, 1 Voi equals 1 not Voi.
Okay.
Yeah,
So,
but until then, not Voi is inferior to Voi in the other meaningful way, which is to stake it. So
Agreed.
anyway, something to consider.
So I think somebody that was smart would look at the block proposal, the lock reward proposal, add the potential distribution of the Voi for actually having Voi, and then compare that to the not Voi amount of distribution. That is what I would recommend somebody to do, and would be able to understand then what's the not value in the actual testnet would be.
I like the way you said not value.
That makes sense. That's what I would do if I were playing this game.
Well, I think it's definitely worth, just conscious of time, because I'm sure everyone is, wanting to pop off at the on the hour. But I think it'd be worth us setting up a dedicated thread on this on the communication channel, so we can collate your thoughts and we can have some debates on it, because I'm sure there's a lot more that people are going to think of as time goes on, and we want to get this right, basically. So if anyone has anything else they want to add on the council member incentives, otherwise we'll just move on to the next phase. We haven't decided yet on if they're all going to be not Voi or Voi. There might be a threshold. If it's a small proposal like 10 testnet Voi, then maybe that's just going to be Voi. But again, this is stuff for us all to have a debate and decide upon, essentially. Brilliant. Anyone want to add anything else on the council member incentives? And I think also keep in mind that, like Chris said earlier, we could add, or you guys as well, could do more proposals if, for whatever reason, we need more incentives and things like this. Cool.
Let's move on token challenge.
I mean, we can talk about the token challenge if you want. Well, so those ones we weren't actually going to discuss because they're all still open for community comments. We only really wanted to go through the council member incentives, so don't worry, we're not going to be going through every single proposal today. So just keep in mind, though, those ones do still need to be reviewed and commented by the community and yourselves as well.
Well, we should give it give somebody a platform today if they want to talk about any of these things.
That's what the open floor is coming up, Chris. Cool. Don't you worry.
All right, Lobo.
Maybe just a general thing, because Shanti said we should fill out the form like 2 weeks ago. And then what happened is the proposal was changed again. So like I, for example, filled out my one like 2 days ago, and it's completely different today. The proposal is a different one because it has a lot more information in it. So I think there should be some kind of deadline where the proposal is like fixed and we can actually vote on this fixed proposal.
Sorry, which one? Which are we talking about? The council member incentives or the token challenge?
The token challenge.
Yeah, so the token challenge is not actually ready to be evaluated by the form. It's still in this community request for comment, given all the changes that have occurred. So I'm sorry that you had to fill out the form preemptively there, but I will, or any of us will send out in the agenda email and try and highlight the ones that are ready to be evaluated by you guys.
So I think that there's statuses on the proposals. So you can pay attention to the statuses if they're ready for a vote or not.
Yeah, I think annoyingly, I put the change to the template on my thread, on my branch for the token challenge. So I'm going to put that on the mainnet, not the mainnet, the main branch before too long as well. But yeah, there should be a status saying what is in.
Thank you.
But yeah. Oh, so I was just going to say, yeah, it's an open floor now, basically, to chat about anything you want, including any of the existing proposals, if you guys want.
All right, Keatley.
Could we go through one together and fill out one of the forms together the way that we all want to on GitHub and all this? I think it would be helpful for me, at least. I'm maybe the least technical person on the call, so that'd be great.
So do you mean like to show you how to actually do it? Because I think there's a video out there on like walking through on how to actually do it correctly.
Oh, there's a video. I haven't seen the video. I'm looking at the step-by-step. Could you drop a link to the video in the chat? That'd be awesome.
Yeah, I think the videos are on our Google Drive, so I'll add the video links into the actual proposal and the bounty processes as well.
As a wrap-up, once we're done, it would be really helpful if there was sort of a to-do list of all the things that we should do with links and pointers to different places. There's a lot that we covered here, and it's kind of all over the place.
It's a good point. I think it's kind of why Cody put the shared drive as well. I think that will declutter a lot of stuff if we can have everything in this place. But I agree.
Still having the shared drive is great, but even like let's do this, and here's where it is in the shared drive. Let's do this. Here's where the video is sitting here. This is in GitHub. This is in Reddit. This is in Discord. It's like, you know what I mean?
Like an index of where everything lives. Yeah, I agree.
Where and like, what do we need to do in the next 2 weeks, and so we can make sure we get it done.
Yeah, there'll be a follow-up email, which should outline all of that. But yeah, I completely agree.
Cool.
Awesome. Oop.
Am I crazy, or were we told that I mean, I know I'm crazy.
Yes.
Were we told that the token challenge was ready to vote? I thought that the token challenge was what I evaluated. But I feel like now I've evaluated the council, which is fine because I'm supportive of both. But yeah, I thought that we were told that the token challenge was what was ready.
Well, so in the email, it's talking about the council member incentives, but I did post the token challenge just on the general chat, just a little teaser, and also on the forum as well. It's been there for a couple of weeks, but there's back and forth, and it still needs to be updated. So you don't need to evaluate the token challenge yet, but fantastic.
So okay, I think here's the confusion. You can give comments on all of these right now, like as a community member, meaning like if this is crazy, like make the comments. It's just you don't have to do the evaluation form yet. You're not like you should read them as a community member and say, okay, oh, this is wrong or this is right. Here's my information. But it's not time to actually evaluate yet.
Precisely, yeah.
All right, Wilder.
In evaluating the exit proposal, I noticed that ARC 72 was included in quarter 2 2024, and there was no mention of ARC 200. Could the core team speak to the sort of importance of those features and if it's sort of necessary to be in a proposal?
So to me, ARC 72 is very important for NFTs. And this is once again, an opinion of mine. This is a Chris opinion. And I have a loud voice, so I hope you listen to it. I believe that NFTs are much stronger. ARC 72s are much stronger and better in many different ways for the future. And since we are starting from scratch, it is actually a better way to go. ARC 200s, on the other hand, I think that the VSA, the main primitive, is actually a very great primitive for fungible tokens. I think ASA 200s or ARC 200s, sorry, they have their value, but it's more of customizable fungible tokens and aren't as important as what ARC 72s are.
So an example community comment could be, I'd like to see this included in your proposal and this deadline changed. And if you're asking for 200 million, it all should all be included kind of thing.
Exactly. Like, be vicious. I mean, not vicious. Be nice, but like, be direct. Like, listen, like, this is too much or whatever. It should be less. Because the thing is, like, at the end of the day, when we vote, it'll be a yes or no. So the times to actually modify it are before we actually get to the point of voting.
Thank you. Much clearer now.
Andrew.
Yeah, this was kind of already said, and I actually stepped away too, so it might have even been touched on a little bit more. But just in regards to the form for evaluating, just a little bit more clarity, maybe on the form. I know the one that I looked at was it just was like very general. I wasn't sure what proposal it was for. I know doing a little bit digging deeper, I would have found that probably, but just it would be nice to have like on that form, like, you know, proposal one, whatever, and then like maybe even a link to what that proposal is. Just a little bit of feedback on my part.
All right. Yeah, that makes sense. Which form were you filling out of interest?
So it was like the evaluation form that kind of graded the proposal evaluation form, council member incentive. So I guess that makes sense right there at the top. So it did say it at the top here, but for whatever reason, I was confused. So maybe that's a me problem.
There does seem, in general, there's some little bit of confusion on the evaluation versus like community comments. I say you don't need to evaluate anything unless we email you the evaluation form, essentially.
Gotcha. Okay.
You comment the hell out of them.
Yeah, exactly. But at any point in time, you see something on that forum or on the GitHub, if you're inclined that way, comment anything and everything you want, because you got to rip it to shreds.
Like Lobo did with the token challenge.
Exactly.
Ripped it to shreds.
Yeah, you guys made a mistake bringing Lobo on here. I'm telling you.
Now you see what I deal with every single day in Dragonfly. Yeah.
Nice. Anyway, cool. So is this the open, like, continue open floor? Not even about proposals. Yeah. How are we doing? How should we change it? Let us know.
I'm just gonna jump in. Oh, sorry, Wilder, jumping in too late. Sorry, I didn't raise my hand. I just kind of wanted to second Keatley also too, in regards to kind of like meeting notes or action notes after the meeting that kind of consolidate and are more concise and clear. You know, for me personally, I'm in 1,000 Discords, I'm in 1,000 Telegrams, and I try to keep up as much as possible, but I definitely miss some communications. You know, sometimes maybe something didn't get pinned or I just missed it in general. So just having a little bit, you know, tightening of what's going on would be helpful.
100%. So what we will do is, I mean, always look at the agenda as well post meeting, because that is where we add this to do an actual items post, which we'll run through at the end. But we'll also send a follow-up email just to make it super clear.
Something that's really helpful once we start using threads appropriately. If you go to the communication thread and just go to the top that looks like a hash, you can click on it and it'll say all of the active threads. So you don't have to scroll or anything. Wilder.
On that note, I think for using the Quizbot as an example, we got to witness it sort of from an idea, get its own channel and become a proposal. But the proposer had a lot of questions and didn't really know how to structure his proposal. So I think going forward, before something gets a dedicated channel, there might be a little bit more vetting that goes in. And when a proposal is submitted, there's mandatory fields like how much they're asking for and things like that, because it's created a lot of discussion. But I think it's taken a lot of committee attention as well compared to all the other projects, just because of how active it is. And so that's one thing. And then on the note of assigning a value to it, I propose 1 million tokens.
Put it in there.
Yeah, give it a comment.
Let them know.
I think it's a good point. Would you rather there's an entirely separate forum for people to discuss potential bounties as well as potential proposals, or are you happy to keep it in the existing ones?
I think in the way it is right now, you sort of have to be on Discord, especially for the less technical users. So I think it's difficult right now to have it reflected in both places. So if we agree on Discord as the place to do it, I think threads make a lot of sense. But if we want to have when it gets to the official proposal stage, I think like a draft proposal with a lot of stuff left out of it that does hit the GitHub shouldn't be happening. By the time it gets there, it should be more or less something we can refine.
That makes sense. Yeah, I'd say definitely feel free to in the forums follow the proposal, the bounty templates if you are thinking of submitting one. And then if you need a helping hand when it comes to doing it on GitHub, maybe someone else in the committee or in the community, or reach out to one of the Voi team.
Shelly.
Hello. Is the open floor a consistent part of the agenda for meetings?
Yeah.
Is this where champions are born?
I'm confused by the question, but yes, this is where champions are born. But I think that you mean the champions for the actual proposals. We need a champion for the council member incentive, right? This is that we need to decide who's going to. Do we have any volunteers for the council member incentive to be the champion? Wait, are you raising Recoup? Are you raising your hand?
Yeah, I mean,
or you have a question?
I would champion that and look into that. I also would champion. I know that I don't know if we're all just going to blurt out. I'd like to champion D13 as well. I feel like I love D13, so I'm always happy to be a champion for him. I'd like to champion for Chris. Chris is a beautiful man with the. So I'm willing to champion lots of people.
Well, there's only one thing that's ready for a champion.
Okay.
It's one thing, and I appreciate it. Thank you. I will champion for you too. But anyway, so the council member incentives. What was have Coop? You say you want to be a volunteer? Is there? Let's do a show of hands. Who here wants to volunteer for the council member incentive? Put your hand up.
I don't want to go against Coop. Coop wants to do it
IRL,
on
put your hand up.
man.
Put your hand up.
You know what I mean? If Coop
IRL,
want to do it.
Andrew, I thought it was a face-off.
Chris, don't bully her.
Yeah, you're
not supposed to be influential.
That's not true. What? That's impossible for me not to be influential. Number one,
you have no.
I don't have a vote.
You have no stake, bro.
I don't have a vote.
I am very convincing. So this does bring up some issues.
Yeah. So Coop, number one, you put your hand up. Does anybody else want to actually volunteer to be a council? Do not just because somebody else puts their hand up does not mean you should not put your hand up.
But what are we volunteering for? What to be a council?
To be a champion.
To be a council champion.
For the committee incentive proposal.
Correct. So this is your.
What is that? What is that? Talk to me about this. Like, what are the duties? What does this look like? I'll go head to head against Coop. Come on, let's do this.
So what it is
that we can have an IRL fight here, right in LA, and broadcast it.
You are volunteering to do a deep dive on this proposal, and then and during the next meeting, you will then present the proposal and your opinion on if it should be actually accepted or not.
Got it.
Yeah, and so Keely, just to add some extra context here, so each proposal that comes through, so there's an initial vote, should this basically move forward to get a champion, where once that vote passes, a champion would then come on board and do a deeper dive and give the council more insight on what that proposal is. And then that's when we would move it forward to, okay, are we going to actually accept this proposal or no? So it's kind of like a filtering process that, two-step filtering process for proposals.
And the champion can also advise changes too, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. At any
can I co-champion this with Cooper?
We said that there could be more than one champion.
Coop, you wanna do this together?
Let's do it. Yeah, cool.
IRL, what's up?
I was just gonna move to get on with it. Let's make the champs. I'm in full support of that.
All right, cool.
Second Coop nominate, whatever. You guys get it.
I hear you. All right. So we have Coop and Keely as being co-champions for the council member incentive.
It's updated on the Discord and written in stone now.
There we go.
Wonderful. Congratulations,
Cool.
guys, on being the first champions.
Is it-
Wow.
Yay!
That it passes the committee grading, that is. But we have them lined up at the ready, though.
Wonderful. Cool. Any other open spot or any other open whatever, you know what I'm saying? Open floor. Let's hear it.
Open mic night now.
IRL.
I just wanted to reiterate to everyone how easy setting up the node was and give awesome props on the one click. I was able to navigate that really well, and I just think things are a little confusing, but I have not yet ran into someone who hasn't been willing to help in the Voi Discord. So shout to everybody that's helping me and us, me and Keely, get up to speed with GitHub and all that stuff. I really appreciate it, and I think that is indicative of future success. Just the willingness to get your hands dirty and help out, pulling people along the way. So I got that one-click node running now, and it was really thanks to PK. I think helped me a lot with that.
PK is amazing. I created a video too. If you want to watch the video, it's only 7 minutes long on how to actually set up your one-click node.
We know you're trying to put me and Coop out of a job. I see you. Great job.
Thank you.
I already had mine set up when you made that, though.
I know. Open floor. Anybody else? Keely, go to the Node Runner channel, and you can look at all of the pinned messages, and it's so helpful. So if you want to set up a node, go to the Node Runner channel. If you do not see the Node Runner channel, it's
I'm out of it. I'm gonna go get back into it.
If you don't see the Node Runner channel, you need to set up your role as a Node Runner, and then you'll be able to see it.
I see that now.
So going
Cool.
back
So-
to the bounty discussion, I don't know if this is too easy or not, but would this be low hanging fruit, creating a bounty for NFT verification bot in Discord for Voi NFTs, obviously?
No, it's not too, you should do a proposal for that.
I can knock in some doors.
Just so you know, Algo League is actually actively building their bot to work on Voi, which means that every Discord channel that Algo League is in, which I think he said over 100 right now, will be given an option to switch over to also work on Voi. So this is really cool. And this is what I talked about earlier, is that it will allow for anybody to make it rain on any type of token on the Discord channels if you're active. So believe you me, it's going to be raining some Voi.
I have one question, and I think someone mentioned it earlier, but I didn't catch the answer to it. Is there a specific outline that we should follow for proposal submissions, or? Okay.
Yes. For both. So obviously, if you want to see something built, but you're not going to be building it, that is when you would submit a bounty. But if you want to build something yourself and you want to get something in return for it, you would submit a proposal.
You need to do a proposal for Humble.
Yeah, so I'm working on it right now. But so I looked on, there was a dead link that sent me to GitHub that said it was the supposed outline to follow. So I wasn't 100% sure if that was it. I've kind of been looking at someone else's proposal that was already submitted and just kind of copying that. But if there is a form, let me see if I can.
If you go to testnet proposals, if you pop open that forum on Discord, the first one is the template.
Yeah, the pinned posts on both of the forums will take you there.
Gotcha. That's the dead link, though, just so you guys.
I just clicked them and they both work for me.
Really? I'm getting a 404, so I'm not sure.
For the template link.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. If you could just afterwards just send me a screenshot and I'll see if I can sort it out.
Gotcha, man.
Right, we only got 2 minutes, so I think we might have to just quickly run through the action items, key takeaways, the next steps, etc. We had jotted down that we wanted each of you to do a why Voi video. So if you guys are able to.
I'm going to ask you to do that. This is not mandatory unless nobody does it. Then maybe we will make it mandatory. But this is like it's a quick 30-second video of why are you doing this? Say, hey, this is Coop from the Recoup. I'm doing this because I love Chris's beard, but like something more real. And like 30 seconds, because what we want to do is actually use this for content, just to show like, you know, this is a real person. I'm a committee member. I'm doing this because I want to see XYZ. It's not mandatory, but we would love it if you did. So Mariana, please do it.
I'm probably not going to do it. I'm sorry, Chris.
How would you like those submitted? The Discord
Coop can
channel?
do 2 for me.
Yeah, let's we probably make a thread. Then so like I'm thinking, you know, literally like selfie video. Hey, this is me. Let me tell you why this is great. Think of it like Instagram shorts, or I don't know.
Nice and cheesy.
TikTok.
Nice and cheesy. Just before everyone does quickly jump off, also please do fill out the council member incentives evaluation form, and then we can aggregate the results and see if it's gone through. And obviously, Coop and Keatley can then champion it.
All right, guys. Love you.
Brilliant. Yeah. Thanks everyone for attending.
Adios.
Cheers, guys.
Thanks, Al.
Bye bye.
See ya.